This is Radio Free Eskippakithiki, coming at you from WRFL 88.1 FM. I've had an absurd day. Just need to let my heart go a little bit slower now. So we are here in the studio with the two Democratic candidates for the U.S. House of Representatives, Geoff Young and Preece, here in the 6th District, which includes Lexington. So Jeff's here in the studio. Chris and Mike is his road manager, or his campaign manager, are picking their theme music and are about to make their entrance. So our telephone number is 859-257-9735, and you can reach us on Twitter or any way you want to in particular, and ask us questions. We like tough questions. The toughest questions you can think of are the best questions. All right. Well, they're going to be in just a second. So I will mention, or we should mention, this is not going to be the reason you are hearing this instead of watching it. And the reason it's on WRFL instead of KET is because KET has decided to just not do candidate debates for the U.S. House of Representatives this year at all. They just gave Andy Barr a campaign commercial. They just let Andy Barr do a little... a presentation, I guess, they had him on, and no other candidates at all. So when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. So we stepped up, and now we are going to be doing the debate. Or not really debate, a conversation. So, hello, everybody. Welcome. I have all the microphones turned all the way up, so you can really just wander. Yeah, Geoff is always more professional than I am about microphones. I really don't care about levels.
Where's your mic?
Conversation.
Where's yours?
Just point. Here you go. You can have mine, and I will take yours. And I'll take this one, and the listeners will be a little bit confused. So everybody say hello.
Howdy.
That is Preece. I'm Geoff Young. Howdy.
Look.
How's it going, everybody?
And you're?
Mike Van Winkle.
Mike Van Winkle is Chris's campaign manager, and as we are discovering in our trek through politics, campaign manager has a whole lot to do with what's going on. And full disclosure, I'm not Geoff's campaign manager because Geoff can't be managed, but I do work closely with the Geoff Young campaign. And,
now, Geoff, I feel like I'm actually herding cats sometimes. And I was about to say.
Well, if even two people can work together, they've got such a massive advantage in this world. It's just not fair. But everything's difficult. We're into politics because politics is difficult, right? So,
right.
Shall we leap right into... I've got some questions prepared. Let me grab them. Okay, so I'm promising uncomfortable and difficult questions.
Oh.
And that includes questions that we ask each other. Whatever you want to talk about. We've all talked about this well before this, but we're all relying on each other's basically gentlemanliness, right? We're here to talk.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
An adult conversation.
I teach teenagers for a living. I live in uncomfort. And smells.
A small business owner about the same.
Yeah, I just find trouble on my own. I don't even get paid for it. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, but let's start with some tough questions. Mr. Preece, you want to run for U.S. House of Representatives and represent the people of the 6th District.
Yes.
What is 99 divided by 8?
Why is this constituting math and me having to do mental math?
That's a good answer. Because I have a friend who's a neuroscientist, and he says that the way that they make people uncomfortable, if they want to make people uncomfortable reliably for experiments, is they ask them math questions in public.
Okay, interesting. 12 point something.
Close enough. All right, Geoff, what is 1 times 2 times 3?
6.
No, that was too easy.
Not too easy.
Sorry. Okay, we'll do another
Do the
one.
cube root or something.
Oh, come on, you're just showing off. It's not fair if you
Mr. MIT over here.
I'm gonna spring you on that one. I shouldn't have given you a factorial. You're right. Unfair. Mike, do you want in on this? I got more math problems.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll fire
All
on
right,
that.
where we go? 802 divided by 7.
Like 113-ish.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
No,
passing.
114.
Definitely passing.
114. Close enough for me. Anyway.
Close enough.
All right, so that's what I got.
All right.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, so next question, I suppose.
Fire away.
Okay.
Wait, we didn't get to ask you one.
Go
One of you
for it,
guys.
yeah.
Some other nice math question for.
Yeah, what
Mr.
is
Šebesta
the,
here.
let's see, if you've got a wavelength of 431 nanometers, what's the energy?
Now, that's a physics
Yeah,
question.
that's physics. That's not math. I got to be able to multiply. I mean, 431 is one down from one of my favorite numbers, and so I was like all excited for a second. But I don't got like behind. I know D equals R times T because there's a Pixies
Well,
song
just something
about it.
simple in college. What's Avogadro's number?
Oh, 6.022
Times
times 10
10
to the 17th or 19th, or was it
23rd.
23rd?
23rd power.
23rd.
You had a good chemistry teacher.
Well, no, I read the Illuminati series.
Okay.
I had good teachers. I had good math teachers. Maybe that's what's going on with all this. Okay, so as people who may know, there have been a few harsh words between the campaign at one point, and I'd like to clear that up by asking you to say something nice about Vladimir Putin, and you to say something nice about Zelensky.
Something nice about Vladimir Putin. He knows how to ride a horse without a shirt on.
Good one.
That's true. Yeah, all right, fair.
Zelensky was, I don't know, probably pretty funny as a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I've often suspected of that. I mean, he must be a pretty good stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I haven't watched the show that he was in where he played the president.
No, I haven't either.
I mean, I don't speak Ukrainian, so I mean, I guess
There's
it's just
subtitles.
comedy.
You can read it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. It's just a wistful hope that like this is such a dividing issue, and it's also like another country fighting another country, and I just want to be able to disagree and still be Americans.
There you go.
I don't feel like Americans should have to pick a side in this. That makes me upset, and that's not fair. I'm just, Do you agree? Is that fair? I mean, honestly.
I mean, we're all entitled to our opinions, my general opinion on opinions is that they're like buttholes, and everyone stinks but mine.
Well put. All right, yeah. I'll work on that. Get a bidet for the soul. Can we profitably talk about Ukraine a bit more? I noticed everything last night was about Ukraine. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, and you all should direct the conversation, but...
Okay. Well, I'm happy to jump in. This is Geoff Young. I think this war that is in our newspaper every day since February 24th, 2022, actually started in 2014 with an illegal coup sponsored by the United States against the elected president of Ukraine, 2014. He had to flee for his life to Russia, and ever since 2014, Ukraine has not been a democracy. It has been a puppet government controlled by the CIA and by Ukrainian Nazi groups, actual Nazis whose main goal in life is to kill every Russian they can find, ethnic Russian, speaker of Russian. I don't know what they think about Jews, but today's Nazis want to exterminate Russians.
So in fairness, the original Nazis also murdered a whole lot of Russians.
Well,
too.
of course, yeah, they
And
did.
Ukrainians. And Poles.
And, yeah.
Right.
Sort of a murder Holocaust.
Well, I mean, can I jump in real quick?
That's why you're here, Mike. You're
Just a
supposed
quick
to jump
question.
in.
Jeff, first time I ever met you in person, just got a couple quick questions. You were talking about killing Russians. Are you talking about the ones that invaded the country of Ukraine, or are you talking about just in general?
I'm talking about 2014. And we're in 2022 now.
Right.
And
that's what I was talking about, was what's currently going on. Are they after the Russians that are in their country?
Yes.
Or are you talking about just any Russian that happens to land on a plane in general? Or are you talking about...
No. Mainly, they want to start with the ethnic Russians. I don't know what percent, but a high percentage of Ukrainian people are ethnic Russians, and an even higher percent than that speak Russian.
Yeah, you're talking about toward Crimea, right?
As their first language. I'm talking about the whole country of Ukraine. It's very heavily Russian. And the current groups that run the government and run the military or dominate the military want to kill them. They want to exterminate them. And that's been true since 2014. They've been shelling, the Ukrainian army has been shelling the ethnic Russians in Donetsk and Lugansk. Those are the two self-declared republics in the Donbass, steadily since 2014. And in February, right before the Russians launched their operation, that shelling increased. There was a huge Ukrainian army buildup right on the contact line or border between Ukraine and the two republics. And Ukraine put most of its army, the core, the bulk of its army right on that line, ready to move into the two republics and exterminate everybody. And Russia had to launch its operation in order to stop that from happening. They were like 2 or 3 or 4 days ahead of the planned invasion, and the Russian troops were able to prevent that extermination operation from ever occurring.
You're still in 2014, right?
No,
2022 now.
Okay, we're 2022.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. That's just that's bold.
So, from my understanding of
yeah.
this situation, is the citizens did try to run out the elected president due to some suspicions that Russia had major influences in that election, and that there has been major conflicts with Ukrainians and Russians in Ukraine because Russia keeps trying to have a ton of influence on their country, and so they are trying to get rid of those Russian agents who are going into their country, and Russia doesn't like that, and so they want to take back a piece of land that used to be a part of the USSR, and we know that is something that is a dream of Putin's, and so he is going after that dream.
Okay.
All right, well,
yeah, I can respond. I'd like to respond at some point.
Oh yeah, well at some point you got a while, dude. It's 6:15.
Right.
Right. Well, no, because this brings to something like that came up on Reddit a lot. I've never this is an interesting race because there's absolutely no official attention to this race whatsoever.
Right.
But boy's the internet talking about it. I've never seen it. Have you all noticed this?
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Everything's upside down. I don't get it. And are you all? Okay, I'm not going to get distracted. One thing at a time. So, one thing
That's grassroots, man.
No. Got to drive all the horses at once, or they'll get back out of the barn. I don't know. Anyway, one thing that came up in Reddit repeatedly, if you all read the Reddit page, was how do we know what we know? And this is something that I've always wanted to ask you, Geoff. What sets your BS detector off? Like, how do you decide? Do you have any techniques that you can share with the voting public for how you read, whatever information you take in? Like, how do you figure out what's true? Because I'm as lost as anybody if you've got any good ideas.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'll speak first because, I basically advise Chris quite often. I don't rely on one source.
Yeah.
I look at AP, Reuters, BBC, Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
I look at several different, video sources. I do the research myself before I bring it to Chris and say, this is what I've seen. This is what the pundits are saying. But, at the end of the day, it's your call. So I just basically do research for him.
Okay. Well, that's a useful function. I'm sure it's helpful.
Yeah, as a scientist, or functioning as a teacher, it is very important to have multiple sources to back it up, and also, sources that are as reasonably without bias as possible.
Yeah.
Reading scientific journals and that stuff. There's always some biases depending on who's writing it or whatever.
I prefer to get my war news from Lancet. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. Right? Did I? I mean, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have interrupted. That was.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
So I mean, no, like, what sets it off when you're reading something? Like,
All right. Well, I have a rule of thumb when it's anything that involves international relations or war and peace. You figure out if the person speaking or writing is a neocon. If they're a neocon, it's wrong. That's very helpful. Always applies, never fails.
You might be right. I've seen you be right more often than not. But I don't.
That's just the first, that's just the first cut. So.
I came of age during Obama and watching the Republicans fight Obama. That's what taught me that, like, if you just do the opposite of what everybody, if you pick somebody to always do the opposite of, they're going to figure it out and start playing you.
No, neocons never change.
Okay. All right.
It's a hard and fast rule. So what is a neocon? A neocon is some kind of influential talking head or public official. Secretary of State Blinken is a neocon. Virtually the entire State Department at the top level are neocons. There are a whole lot of them in the Pentagon. But neocon is an American who believes that the United States has the God-given right to intervene militarily in any country in the world where the government does something that the military-industrial complex does not like. So the United States has the right, absolute right, to do a regime change operation in Venezuela, assassinate a Iranian general.
Wait, before you go any further on that,
Okay.
How much do you all agree with? I mean, I'm obviously in agreement with Geoff on this. I designed the billboard. How much do you all agree with this stuff? Like, where are you all on the CIA?
I will respectfully agree to disagree.
All right, so you think the CIA is doing a good job or a necessary job or a...
I think they fulfill a purpose.
Are you talking like a realpolitik purpose or a Machiavellian purpose or like we have to defend ourselves type purpose or what?
A legitimate purpose?
Yeah.
I think they do have a legitimate purpose. I think they, when it comes to international affairs, we need to know as much information as possible about our adversaries around the world, regardless of what country it is. And without them and their reporting back to the president, we could find ourselves fighting blindly in something, and that's never been a good way to fight.
We have 16 other intelligence agencies. There's the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I
understand that,
DI.
Jeff, but they all have their own little specialties.
Yeah.
Okay?
And the CIA.
Right.
CIA is more of the blanket umbrella over all of it.
So you think it's working overall? Like,
Well, I mean, it didn't work on weapons of mass destruction, but
Right.
but yeah, overall, I mean, I think that they serve a function to give us intel, and which is necessary to try to collect that intel.
so just like to make this realistic, like if you win, you would. I guess what am I asking? What would be your attitude towards them in office? And towards the secret intelligence agencies in general, I suppose.
I'm not sure what you mean by intel. I mean, they're a resource to be used to make decisions, like any other agency is there to help collect information, provide information in order to make decisions.
So you would not want to abolish the CIA?
No, I would not want to.
No.
All right. Well, that's 2 for and 2 against. All right.
Well, and I've said on my website, this is Geoff Young, that the CIA should be abolished because it's the worst terrorist organization in the world today. And it has been since it was founded in 1947. The very worst terrorist organization that exists.
I do have to agree with
And
this
they do
estimation.
They do drug running. They bring in addictive drugs from Asia and
And
South America and Central America.
I think it would be good if we like pivoted to points that actually, going to hit home with the people of Kentucky and serving them, because there's a heck of a lot of problems right here, and and trying to address that to make general folks' lives better. Us quibbling about the CIA is not going to do that.
Okay, I agree completely. So shall we move to domestic policy then?
Sure.
Because you're right, every single question last night, pretty much every question revolved around foreign policy. I've never seen that before. I think it's great, but also, like, people do have the right to request, like, what's in it for them. Okay, so another question from Reddit is, I got to ask this first. Okay, so, no, I'll say that. Okay, somebody from Reddit wanted to know what you all thought about Buc-ee's.
About what?
About Buc-ee's.
I'm the only one that's been there, I think. Have you been there? It's an interesting place. I mean, you can buy beef jerky by the pound. And 126 gas pumps.
My students tell me it's the Walmart of gas stations.
Yeah, that was my impression too. But they got a tax break to move in there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you? That's what Reddit was curious about, because I couldn't figure out what Reddit wanted on that one either. Like, Reddit wanted to know, like, how do you feel about tax breaks in enterprise zones and these sort of like making individual deals with individual businesses to bring business into an area?
I mean, I think it's important that our government foster the creation of jobs, and Buc-ee's is supplying somewhere around 200 jobs, I believe, and so they're. I'm trying to remember what the lowest wage was. I think it was like $15 or $16 an hour, which is better than quite a few of the other service jobs around the Richmond Berea area. Mm. So it is providing some decent jobs for folks, and that money is gonna go out to regular folks to help them live their lives. Now, looking at doing tax breaks and that, I think it is reasonable to try to provide some incentive to draw business in. Now, do I think that it could be overextended and be a little ridiculous? I do. So, I think that has to be, balanced with the amount of money that they're going to be, or the quality of jobs and the quality of service that they're going to be providing to the area.
How do you balance that? Like, is there a federal way to balance that? Is there a...
That's a local issue.
That's more of a state rep
issue. But
issue.
you've got sweetheart companies like coming... Well, we just had that problem.
I mean, other than the fact that it gave Andy Barr a great photo op to go the other 7,000.
Mm-hmm.
No, a far more sinister example is that aluminum company.
Yeah.
Now, should that have... That was clearly out of line, right? You all may know more about the aluminum company than I do, but as I understand it, that was a pretty bad deal.
It never got built, right?
Yeah. But
are you talking about the one that was supposed to go in Ashland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a corrupt deal. Like,
that's the problem right there.
Yeah.
There's a great potential with all these kind of deals where you have government. They call it, the nice term for it is public-private partnerships. There's a tremendous potential for corruption. It's really hard to deal with that.
Okay, so how are you going to deal with it?
I think at the end of the day, you in the contract, you just make sure that in the case of the aluminum plant, that person did not fulfill what they said that they were going to do to any rational degree.
So the law was already against it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So putting a clause in there to make sure that they are required to pay back if they don't fulfill it. I mean, I think that's fair.
But realistically, I guess I'm the only person that has run for a state office, state rep.
No, I did in
2012. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Me too, long time ago.
Okay, but I think you would agree with me. That's more of a state representative level. Mm-hmm. It's not really a Kentucky 6th district, because what happens in Ashland can't be accounted for in Frankfort or Paducah or Bowling Green.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to connect it to something else here, because it sort of can. Because, okay, we've gone from Buc-ee's to a far more sinister example, right? Mm-hmm. But you all remember what happened with the teachers' pension funds, like the day of the invasion of Russia, right? Like all those do you remember this? Mm-hmm. The teacher pensions had huge investments in Russian banks, and they happened to sell them all off the day before the invasion.
Yeah, that was.
Well, they could have seen something coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I'll give them points for perspicacity, but like, it feels like there was something there that the federal level, like, because we're talking like huge. We're not just talking like, a guy from Stanton who wants to own a gas station in Menifee anymore, right? Like, we're talking about like international conglomerations that want to come in, and if we don't pay the taxes, I mean, if they don't pay taxes to us. Am I getting populist here?
And teachers' pensions shouldn't be invested in foreign entities
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
I find that
That makes
absolutely
sense.
ridiculous. And another thing that really grinds my gears, and a lot of other teachers' gears, and for those of you that listening that don't know, my name is Chris Preece, and I teach high school chemistry down in Berea. And like, when a teacher retires, we are not eligible for Social Security.
Right.
So
That's right.
Yeah.
It's
That's
a
hideous.
parallel retirement system.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure why.
It's written into the contract for
Yeah.
some reason. I really don't know why.
It was part of the deal to get this whole thing through in the beginning. Like anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can find out more if you want me to. But yes, it's hideous.
it is.
We're talking about like starving teachers in not long.
Mm-hmm. Could happen.
Yeah. The hope is that the retirement system will keep going and be fine, but really it needs to be boosted and be better, as well as just teachers' pay in general, and how we cultivate trying to get teachers. I mean, we're going to be in a serious teacher crisis, probably starting next year. I mean, we've already been in stressful territory in terms of trying to finding people to fill teaching jobs in general. And now through this pandemic, this has been the hardest year of my entire teaching career, hands down. And talking to a lot of my other teacher friends, there's quite a few that are considering leaving for doing other things because it is just so hard. And dealing with the stress of COVID, the stress of the way our students are behaving now, which is far different than previously, and it is we were already basically at our tipping point with stress and being overworked and stuff, and now it's just overboard completely.
Could you say a little bit more about student behavior? That just was what's going on.
So, well, if you think about, say I have some ninth graders, and they have not been very socially active in a large school setting for almost 2 years. So their behavior is more in line with middle school behavior than it is high school behavior, and that just trickles down. I mean, that just trickles all the way through. It is very interesting. I was not expecting that when I walked back into the, into the classroom and was working with students, that the behavior is so strange. And this is another phenomenon that I find very interesting is, if I give whole classroom instruction, and my style of teaching, my whole classroom instructions is 5 to 10 minutes, and then we're doing other things. And whenever I do that previously, before COVID, I would have a few kids here and there that would ask me to repeat a few things, or maybe they weren't paying attention, or couldn't focus or whatever, and I would tell them what it was. But now it's at least half the class I have to go around and individually say the same thing to them. It's almost as like, if it is not direct one-on-one communication, individualized for them, that they're not tuning in. And I'm not sure what that's about. I would definitely like to see someone research that and try to figure out what's going on there, because that is very odd.
Well, I know a neurologist, but okay, we got to phrase this in the sense of a question so that
Can I respond about local issues
please.
and the economy? What is going on? I have to start from the widest perspective, the international perspective. What is going on is that the West, U.S., Canada, Western Europe, Australia, Japan, call that the West. There's a divorce going on between the West and Asia, Russia, China, India, maybe India, Iran. There is a divorce. The world is splitting into two camps. They're hostile camps. It's not a pleasant divorce at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the main weapon of the West so far in its fight to harm Russia is economic sanctions.
Can I stop you for just a second? Do you all agree?
No.
Okay.
I'm not sure how we got to that based on what we were just talking about.
That's 'cause he wanted to talk about it. He went
I'm
back.
getting
Yeah.
there. I'm going to get there.
Yeah, no, it's totally fair. I just want to make sure that everybody's still on the same page. Do you? Because I know you're not going to forget where you're going with this. So
Okay,
you're
I won't.
absolutely not. So
Right,
let's
I
take
mean-
a second. Yeah. Do you think? In what way do you think that was unfair?
I didn't say it was unfair. I just don't agree with it.
Okay.
I think that
But as statements of fact. Okay.
But
all right, all right.
from a
In what
perspective,
way
I
is
guess
it-
you could
is
consider
it
that.
inaccurate?
Yeah.
Partially, it's misleading. It's not inaccurate as much as it's misleading. And what I mean by that, Jeff, and I'm all due respect, okay? I think the bigger question is the top 1%. Not only in this country, but the other country, the oligarchs and everybody else, okay? We have Jeff Bezos running his own personal space program.
Yeah, I don't
You
like
got
that.
you got Warren Buffett
I'm
that
not in
pays
favor.
0 taxes
Yeah.
versus his secretary that pays probably $20,000 of her salary in taxes.
I'm against that.
Okay, but to stay on target, so you just to keep on target. So you're thinking that like the bigger problem here
Is
that
the
1%.
haves versus the have-nots. The middle class shrinkage is not because of necessarily country interaction. It's by the ultra elitists controlling 85% of the wealth and the rest of the world controlling 15%.
I can accept both those things, Chris. Do you?
No, I'm in line with what Mike said. We have the top 1% that is basically trying to hoard everything and bring us basically into a feudalistic state. I feel like we've been going in that direction for quite some time, and the lack of job opportunities through how much is being paid. People are not the decline in unions.
Yeah.
We're just not able right now, are not fighting back enough. I mean, thankfully, the one thing that COVID has brought us is an uptick in unionization.
Yeah, that part's nice.
Which is wonderful. I want to see more of that. The fact that Starbucks has had so many stores become unionized.
Oh yeah, I
is
ordered
wonderful.
these. When I ordered them, I said my name is Union. But we're going to stay on target. We're going to stay on target. Jeff, could you please reincorporate that into what you were saying?
All right. Well, I think that the class analysis that Chris and Mike have just expressed applies to Western capitalist countries and does not apply to China.
And the
Does
oligarchs
not
don't apply
apply.
to Russia?
The oligarchs do not apply to Russia.
Well, it's fair. There's
Because
no. There's a
they-
clear split between Russian oligarchs and American oligarchs. They
Right.
stole all their yachts. Like that's a divorce, right? That's fair to call a divorce. Russian oligarchs and American oligarchs no longer like each other, no longer invite each other to each other's weddings. It's like Clinton and Trump, right? They used
So,
to party,
yeah.
but it's over, right? That's fair.
I'll talk
okay.
about China. They have a socialist country. Everybody throws around the word communism, but the Chinese themselves say that what they have is socialism with Chinese characteristics. They are able, the Communist Party there is able to keep their billionaires under a tight leash. They don't allow Chinese billionaires to run the country. And here,
Because they're
in this country, billionaires run the United States. They own the United States and they run it. And they buy politicians to
On
do
both
what they
sides.
want. They pay lobbyists. They basically, the capitalist class is the simplest way to say it. Capitalist class in America runs the entire country. And it's there for their own benefit. While everybody else was worrying about COVID and worrying about losing their job and, kept from working, the richest billionaires in the country were seeing their wealth increase at astronomical rates.
Yeah, at almost exactly
So-
the rate that the middle class lost their savings.
Was falling.
That was eerie, right? That wasn't.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
just a pure transfer. All right, so where I was going is with sanctions. The United States is trying to sanction Russia to death, and it's failing. All these sanctions are backfiring against our own financial system and our own economy. There is no way in the world that the West can severely harm the Russian economy, because Russia and China are allies. They trade with each other more and more every week. They're building natural gas pipelines from Siberia to China, and pretty soon Russia will not have to export any natural gas or oil to Europe, because they will have the entire Asian market. And Asia can take all of the energy that Russia produces. The Western sanctions are going to be totally ineffective, as if they don't even exist. And Russia and China are going to do fine. The United States is going to be left hanging out there in the wilderness
With our reserves
With
to be just fine.
with no trading partners, without access to essential metals and other raw materials. We're going to have hyperinflation in this country and another Great Depression, like the last century, the 1930s. We are going to lose the sanction war, and if we don't quit trying to sanction everybody, we're going to turn into a failed state. Everybody living in poverty except a dozen billionaires.
Okay. No, Chris, what were you saying there?
I couldn't disagree more.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
well, please do. That's why we're here.
So, I mean, the sanctions on Russia and their unwarranted war on Ukraine is essential to try to put them back in their place, to get them out of Ukraine and to and their army to go back into Russia. And as long as we're able to sanction them to the point that where they're isolated basically from the rest of us. Now, you were talking about them trading with China. We can also sanction China for interacting or trading with Russia.
But doesn't China make our stuff? We don't make their stuff.
Well, we do need to be going back and making our own stuff again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's becoming clear. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we all agree on that one.
Right, but that takes a little while to get done.
Okay, but we were interrupting again. I'm sorry, Chris.
So, I think this will push us back into making more of our own stuff.
Yeah.
And to, having more factories to make American products, which I think we would all like to have, and putting more Americans back to work. We don't need to be buying everything from overseas, when we need people here working and having a livelihood.
And I'm going to compliment Geoff on one thing. He's seasoned enough. He's like me. I remember back when Made in America actually meant something. Mm-hmm. And we went from producers of some of the most elite high-tech products in the world to basically a lazy country of consumers. And we basically shipped off every job. You can call it NAFTA. You can call it whatever you want. But the issue is, okay, I remember back in the 80s when Reagan broke the unions over the air traffic control mess.
That's too high.
Right?
Yep.
That's where this all started. That's when the beginning of the downfall of the unions happened.
I agree.
Okay. Well, wow, we're agreeing on something. And once the
We
unions
generally agree on practically everything, Mike. It's just a couple things. But go, please, I'm sorry.
well, basically, but being older, I'm in my 50s. Jeff probably right there, just maybe a little past me.
65.
So
Well, we
you
have
remember
4
the same
decades.
things that I remember the Carter gas shortages,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Right.
But when we got to Reagan, he declared war on the unions.
Right.
Okay. And when that happened, that Made in America sticker was diminished greatly. And because people couldn't have a premium wage for the products that they were producing, every business in America in the capitalist system basically started shortchanging their employees, cutting their not only wages but their retirements, their health care, and then it was more economical to be a third party than it was to produce something yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And move the manufacturing
To Mexico, Canada, China,
Right.
Vietnam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where they moved it to.
Well, out.
Well, yeah, out is the key. The key word there is out.
Yeah.
Now, the key word we need to be looking for now is bringing it back in.
That would be nice.
And how we do that, is part of what Chris is talking about, is restoring that American dream.
Well,
You know-
actually, yeah. Without going, I'm such a.
Well,
But
Chris,
these two are. One of these guys is going to be representative. You're supposed to tell them. One of them's supposed to do something about this. What are you going to do? Come on, fix it.
Me?
About which part specific?
I don't know the whole thing. I'm a citizen. I don't have to make sense. Bring back jobs, Chris. What are you going to do?
Jobs.
I think it is essential for bringing back jobs, and especially when you're talking about rural communities. And just for context, like I grew up in Martin County, far eastern Kentucky, in a holler where you had to pump sunshine to get any, and
and you still can't drink the water there.
and you still can't drink the water.
No.
Right.
Darn.
Yeah, growing up, we had a well in the front yard, and we would drink from that until the mines ended up contaminating it with bacteria, I think. But anyway,
And arsenic.
yeah, and arsenic. But back on fostering jobs, I think in really rural communities, and in Lexington too, but especially in the rural communities, it is very important that we foster the growth of small businesses. And I think the federal government could create some loans that would allow the fostering of those businesses from the ground up. So if a kid graduating high school this year had a heck of an idea, maybe they could go to someplace like MACID or some other entity and talk to them about that idea, and then they could tell them what kind of resources there are available to them, from loans to being able to connect to other people who have similar types of businesses, and provide really some full resources to try to encourage the people that have these awesome ideas, and if they have the gumption about themselves to go through with it, to make it that there is funding there.
So you want to emphasize small business programs, basically.
Yes, I would love to emphasize that. And,
Well, that's well within your purview, yeah.
yeah, and over time, that would grow long-term sustainability and bringing in more jobs from local people. And not only that, they're crafting their county or small town into what they want, and having that ability to provide those things. It's just very exciting to me.
All right, fair enough. What are you going to do? Don't say sanctions. We already know you're going to vote against sanctions.
All right, repeat the question.
What are you going to do to bring jobs back to America?
Oh.
Don't say sanctions, because you already know you're going to vote against sanctions.
Yeah, well, we have to either prevent this divorce, I'm not sure that's possible, or get back together again with the rest of the world. Yes, the United States can operate at the level of the 1930s without trading with anybody.
Well, things like 3D printers and hydroponics are going to make it easier for America to be self-reliant. I mean...
Right. There are all kinds of options, but
Yeah.
a country that refuses to, or not refuses, refuses to trade with the rest of the world, or a country that is put in the position of isolation by the rest of the world, is going to be a poorer country than a country that trades with everybody.
Do you think... This actually comes to something that was in the forum last night. Do you think that the world is thinking about isolating America?
It's well on its way to doing it.
Do you?
No.
I don't see that happening.
Okay. When somebody at the forum yesterday said, what is his name, Merrill, one of my favorite candidates, said that America was back and were respected in the world again?
No. Sorry.
What do you all think? You think that
America
America's-
is feared and hated.
True, but I want to know what they think too.
I mean,
Fine.
in some parts, I would say, yeah, it's probably feared and hated, but in other parts, I would think that we would be, somewhat more respected than we were 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm probably more on the lines with Chris on this one as well. I mean, if you're looking at, the way the world looks at us over the Ukraine situation,
That's
the
a
current
big one, yeah.
the current situation as it stands,
Yeah.
we're funneling military weapons,
Billions of dollars.
billions of dollars, humanitarian relief, food,
Yeah.
technical support into a country trying to defend itself from communism.
Communism.
That's a bold statement.
Russia is not a communist
I-
country.
Yeah, for most of it, I was like, I can see it your way, but Russia's
the last
clearly not
election, can we
communist.
agree the last election in Russia was hysterical because the guy that ran against Putin got poisoned?
No,
Well, he
I don't
Did
agree.
he hold himself?
Well, hold on,
no,
wait.
he didn't
Actually,
get poisoned at all.
Before
Who are
we
you
go down that
talking
road,
about?
though, Chris,
Navalny
Yeah.
was
Chris-
not poisoned.
But Chris specifically requested that we keep this to things. We have done foreign policy, and we will do foreign policy over and over
Right,
again.
right.
because that's
No,
like what we
okay,
do.
I agree. I mean,
So,
I guess
yeah,
what I'm saying. I
ask
mean,
the
if you're looking at
question, Jeff.
Ukraine, you're looking at
Yeah.
the NATO union countries. Yeah, I think we're better respected because we don't have a president running around insulting everybody.
And it will help trade relations in the
Yeah.
in the Machiavellian sense that the guy was saying last
the
night.
G20s. Yeah.
No, the guy was saying it's like Europe is now Russian oil free or Russian gas free.
No, that's not accurate.
First off, no, that's not accurate. And second,
I
that's
agree,
not
it's not
exactly
accurate.
It's not
something-
even close to accurate.
Yeah, and it's not exactly something to be proud of. That's not really that great.
What's going on
Yeah.
is that the United States is forcing Germany to stop importing energy from Russia.
Yep.
That we went to amazing lengths to stop the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
And did not stop the Nord Stream 1. But it's still foreign
But-
policy, and we did make a promise.
Okay,
So I'm
all
gonna come up with a
right.
question.
You ask the questions, Jeff.
Yeah, because I'm doing such a good job of being objective. I'm trying. You have any questions? Y'all are allowed to ask. Okay, I will ask you the question that this is foreign policy, but it is the question that I truly want to ask you, Geoff Young.
All right.
How is Amy McGrath a war criminal, but Vladimir Putin isn't?
Well, Amy McGrath is a minor war criminal. She's a really low level,
Okay.
minor. The reason I called her a war criminal throughout the entire year of 2018 is that she was part of the war against Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an illegal war of aggression from 2003 to the present day. We violated international law by invading and conquering Iraq. It's simply against the UN Charter to commit international aggression, invade a country, bomb a country, smash it, when it had not invaded us.
But
Okay,
it's just quick.
Just
Is that before or after they invaded Kuwait, destroyed, raped, pillaged, and set everything on fire?
after. I mean,
Okay,
depending
so-
on how
so
you want to wait.
Definitely.
We're talking
Okay.
2003.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying
Amy
to clear.
McGrath was
12 years
15
after
and that's
Kuwait.
it, Yeah.
Okay, well, we're
Yeah.
talking about
2003.
I understand, but the reason why we were there was because they basically invaded a sovereign nation. Can we agree on that?
Well, in 1990?
Yeah,
Okay, you're talking about the first Gulf War.
that's exactly what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm talking about the second Gulf.
You're
That's
talking about the
interesting.
weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, because
Okay.
Amy McGrath was 15 when that happened. But no, that's interesting. I don't. Should we do that, or should we continue with what we were doing? Because that's interesting.
Let's not go back to 1991.
Yeah, let's not go back.
I'll
let's
write it
move
down.
forward. Let's move forward.
We got time, but
I've
yeah.
got a question for both these two guys,
Yeah.
and it's an easy question. I saw you look at me and almost grin because this was a question that I gave you on my way to the barbershop.
Yeah.
Great.
And this is actually a fair question, and it is federal and state level both.
Okay.
Good.
I am a Cherokee Indian. And because we live in Kentucky, I don't have any representation. I'm a ghost. I don't exist. I have to recognize myself as a Caucasian white person. I'm 38% Cherokee, Eastern Cherokee. Okay? I'm part of a group called Kentucky's Indigenous People. Okay? When you go to a state forum, any state forum, there's not even a box to check. That was one of the reasons I ran for state rep, was to stand before the House Speaker and say, do I look like a ghost? Am I solid enough to get the box on the state forums?
Okay.
Okay? And as a federal level, again, you guys have a lot of influence to pressure not only the Eastern Cherokee Nation, but the Western Cherokee Nation. Because this is kind of going to go a little wild, but humor me for a second. The Eastern Cherokee don't want the displaced Cherokee. Okay? We were the ones who were on the Trail of Tears and snuck off or ran and hid for our lives. And the Pomeroy Western Cherokee Nation doesn't want us either because they receive money from the federal government for making the Trail of Tears marches. So, no matter which tribe we are attached to, we are basically vermin. And they don't want us.
Okay.
And we have a state government right now that says, well, there's no Native Americans that live in Kentucky. So I sent a picture of my grandmother's grave to the lady at Native American Affairs. I said, who would have thought it from 1741 till now there's been a Van Winkle living here? How long do you have to be here before you become a resident? No response.
Yeah.
So I asked both of you two,
All right.
starting with Geoff,
Yep.
what are you going to do to protect my people?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
The federal government has an agency called the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Hardly anybody knows about it. Well,
I do.
Outside.
And that's where the Palmer roll and the Baker roll come in.
Right. That's outside of American Indians. Very few people know anything about the BIA. Now, I've been a Quaker for most of my, let's say half of my adult life. Quakers are one of the few religious groups that have anything to do with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They follow it, they get involved, they lobby for, they find out what's needed, what Native Americans are wanting, and they work with the Bureau of Indian Affairs to make it happen. And
That is so freaking
I'm
cool.
going to be inspired and led in Washington by what the Quakers have to say and what other actual Native American groups have to say about what you need. And I'm not going to overlook Native Americans.
But again, I have to bring it back to the question like I explained before. I'm not getting controversial. The Western Cherokee Nation do not want us because we're not part of the Palmer roll. We're not on the take with them. And the Eastern Cherokee don't want us because they don't want us on the take with them. Basically,
Yeah,
we're
I
ostracized.
don't know. I don't know
because
the answer.
We started the Trail of Tears, but we didn't finish it.
I cannot answer that specific question based on my lack of knowledge, Mike. But I'm telling you, I am oriented in that direction. I want to help.
And I appreciate that.
I want to
very
do
much.
the right thing, and I'll become educated about all of these
And the more you learn,
long-standing.
Yeah.
the more you learn
issues.
about this, you're going to go, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I
We
bet
don't-
you're right.
As a group, we don't ask for reparations. We just want a box to check to say,
Okay.
we're Cherokee.
that
That's
sounds
it.
that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
Chris? Yeah.
anyone that can show that their heritage is Native American should be able to check the box that fits their ethnicity, and I don't. It doesn't make sense to me that is not available to you, and so not not being on one list or another shouldn't be the the indicator there whether you can check that box or not. If you've got the documents or the or whatever to show that you are, then you should be able to. And so what happened there is with the Native Americans through the Trail of Tears and the whole mindset of that no Indians I shouldn't say Indians, Native Americans ran off to try to escape from that march
why
is
would you wanna
completely
go?
ridiculous. Yeah.
Death March.
Right. Yeah. I mean, who would
Not the good
want to
kind.
go? So to think that is not possible, or to just kind of ignore it is
Well,
silly
but the
to
problem
me.
is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The problem is clearly because money. Like this group gets
That's
money
it-
from being
that's exactly
recognized. This
right.
other group
They-
gets money from being recognized.
They both get money.
And I mean, like, I'm glad we have switched away from Ukraine to something truly comfortable, like the question of race in America. But we'll dip into abortion eventually, I'm sure. But I think that the problem comes from, I think one of the main mistakes a government can make is to start dispersing money or favors. And I'm like, this obviously has to continue the way it is. Like, you can't, once the arrangement is in, treaties are sacred, we should give the Black Hills back to Lakota. But in the future, moving forward, when you disperse money or benefits based on birth to the populace, you're basically ringing a dinner bell. You're ringing a dinner bell for the most cynical people of every conceivable. You're going to find you're asking for tokenism, and it forces everything apart because you have this. Am I making sense?
You are, and I just
Yeah.
want to show you something. This was the exact same picture I sent to Frankfurt. Look at this woman. This is a 300-year-old picture,
Yeah.
basically. Look at that face. Look at her ears. Look at my face.
Yeah. All right, I'm convinced.
That's my great-great-great-grandmother, Hester Little Flower Van Winkle.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a heck
She's
of a
buried in Berea Cemetery.
You say, what year was that?
Wow,
is that
really?
a
So you were-
17
portrait?
Yeah, that's her real picture.
A portrait? I mean,
No.
they didn't have
I'm
photography.
sorry. I should have said 200. It's about 200 years old.
Okay.
She was old when it was taken, and that was a long time ago. is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
She died in 1790 something.
Well, so you're
Wow.
a true son of Berea, man.
Okay.
Yeah. But look at her messed up ear. Or her stuck.
Yeah, that's something.
I mean, but look at the facial features. I mean,
Yeah.
Our
Oh, yeah,
listeners
same
can't see it.
well, I agree. Yeah. But I mean, is it eerily shocking the way she looks to my face?
It's
Pun
eerie.
intended.
It's eerie.
Yeah. Good one, Jeff. Do you mind if I jump with a couple more questions?
By all means.
All right, guys. On more of the local issue side, and I know part of yours, so I'm going to start with Jeff. Okay, our teachers have been under attack. Mm-hmm. Okay, and basically, their pensions have been stolen, along with first responders as well.
Wow.
Okay, and that's through the state government. Okay, and I'm just kind of curious what your position on legalizing medical or recreational marijuana is.
How does that relate?
That was actually.
And here's how it relates, because it's an extended revenue stream that we could use to refund and repay the teachers' retirement and the first responders' retirement. Earmark those funds directly to.
Nationally?
Absolutely.
All right. So, do you want me to respond to the teacher pension issue or to the marijuana issue?
Your choice.
I'll respond to
Can you respond to
the
the teacher pension issue?
drugs.
while
I
we're on
have. All right. So the first campaign before I started running for office in 2012, the first campaign I worked hard on was Gatewood Galbraith's last campaign
love
for
Gatewood.
governor
Yeah.
in 2011. Yeah, wonderful person. And I learned a whole lot working on his campaign. And so I have favored the legalization of marijuana for decades now.
As you're saying, take it off Schedule 1.
Well, treat it like alcohol.
Right, but it's
Where,
currently
you know,
under
there are
Schedule
age
1.
limits.
Yeah.
And if you're driving and you're too stoned and you hit something or somebody, you know, the same laws that apply to
Okay.
driving under the influence of any mind altering substance. Yeah, legalize it. And
I will advertise it.
huh?
Oh no, that's the next line of the song.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna play that song.
So I'm talking about like a federal tax.
The bigger issue beyond
Yeah.
cannabis is the entire drug war, which I consider to be a total failure. I think Nixon probably started it.
Oh, I can get specific on that one. But honestly, before we go down that particular direction, I do want to know, like, it was a two-part question. One, do you want to legalize it? Yes. Two, how would you funnel that money to teachers and teachers' pensions?
Well, I'd have to work with, that's a state legislature.
No,
you
could do that. National. We're asking you to do this nationally.
Yeah.
Fix it, Jeff. Solve it.
Go through Ways and Means on this.
Yeah, like, what are you going to do? Like, how?
Well, I don't know. Maybe end this two-tier parallel system where teachers are not in Social Security. Maybe that might be the way. Just bring every American into the Social Security system.
Give them credit for 29 years or 30 years, or whatever.
Well, give them credit that is fair.
If they've got money in a system already, they could just buy in, right? Doesn't Social Security more or less work that way?
Or just transfer it over. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, they can in Kentucky because it's gone.
Okay, fair. Well, we got some of it back from the Russians. But, Chris, did you?
Yeah. So I think Geoff Young and I actually see pretty eye to eye on this. That marijuana should be treated more like alcohol. There are a lot of medical benefits to a lot of people, and so in decriminalizing it and trying to help teachers, I think that you could try to put that money into school systems nationwide to help certain programs, and then that would alleviate some of the financial burden to where states could kick that money into teacher pensions and have some sort of deal that way.
So you think you'll be able to make it through those committees? Like, you think because you're dealing with some sharks, dude. Like, you think you're going to be able to, like, put on a suit and go toe-to-toe with these guys? Because, I mean, like,
sure, why not?
I'm a total hippie, but, I respect professionals. Like, these guys are good at what they do, right?
Yeah.
You think you're going to be able to just, like, glide into these rooms and, I mean, you'll have a lot of power, but as I understand it, like, a congressman doesn't really have that much power, I don't know.
I mean, you, as a congressperson, or any congressperson, you have to find allies and work together. And it's all, just like trying to win an election to represent people. You've got to find like-minded people and come together under a common cause. And
Right.
and being in that seat, you've got to do the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, well, actually, I'm going to play a disclaimer real fast, and when we come back in 20 seconds, I want to know who you would look for, who you'd want to ally with, actually. I find that question very interesting. So,
Okay.
Hold on one second. I'm going to play a disclaimer.
The following program contains views, ideas, and opinions that have been produced by the host DJ and their guests and are not reflective of the views of WRFL or its underwriters. For questions, comments, or concerns, please email programming@wrfl.fm.
I'm always the one who's off level. It makes you all sound more interesting. It's just one more service I provide. So,
I bellow.
Yeah.
My wife tells me, shush, shush.
yeah, you get enough of my voice on the echo. Allies. Who? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I had like two more questions I really wanted to get
Okay,
into
I'll
these
write
guys.
that one down to get that. We'll get to it later. Allies. Oh, no, sorry. You, please.
Basically, the next thing I want to talk about was healthcare.
Good.
And the patient's bill of rights, specifically. And I've equated when I ran to like going through the McDonald's drive-thru, paying for a Big Mac, and you go to the second window after you've paid, the girl sticks her head out the window and looks at us and says, "Oh, you're too fat, come back next time." That's basically what they're doing to us.
Fair. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Please
So-
explain.
Please explain that basically somebody else making a decision about your health outcome.
Yeah.
And when I ran as a state rep, I know it was pretty much out of my wheelhouse. I was going to have to get federal help to do it. I think that we need to constitute a patient's bill of rights. That if you pay for services, the insurer has got to be responsible for those benefits. If they decline them for whatever reason, they have to sign an affidavit assuming responsibility for any bad health outcome because they denied that service.
Huh.
Can I respond?
I don't know. I mean, it's
I wanna-
Who do you want that to go to first, man? Jeff or Chris?
Jump in, man. You wanted to respond first.
Yeah.
You wanna go ahead,
I-
Jeff? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
I want a comprehensive solution to the health insurance mess that we have. We have a total mess.
I prefer
we
the word cartel, but
That's a good word. We spend more for health care than any other country, and the health outcomes are shockingly bad compared to other countries. We need expanded, improved Medicare for all, single payer. It's been called a number of things, and I even have a bill that I will be reintroducing because when Representative John Conyers of Michigan died a couple years ago, his bill, which he'd introduced for the previous decade, was watered down, and it's no longer before the Congress. So this is an 11-page, really simple bill, which basically says, if you want to participate in this new giant government-funded system, you have to be a nonprofit. So that would immediately get rid of the vast majority of private health insurance in this country. You could get specialized health insurance for this or that from the market, but almost everybody would be covered by the single-payer system. And it would be nonprofit. We wouldn't have, for-profit hospitals, again, could exist, but they couldn't serve hardly anyone. You'd have to be a nonprofit hospital, a nonprofit clinic, nonprofit this, that, and...
So you're looking more of the Swiss system.
I'm not
Okay,
sure
you're basically just...
I'm
you're
talking
just
about John
Sure,
Conyers'
Swiss system,
bill.
yeah, right.
well, basically, it's what you're describing. That you can have a private company as long as it's nonprofit. Everybody pays into the system.
If that's the Swiss system,
That's the Swiss system.
That's what I'm talking about.
And it's one of the best health systems in the world.
Well, good.
All right.
It's usually top 3
Chris?
every year.
Yeah. So you're talking about a patient's bill of rights.
Yeah.
And I think under our current system that a patient's bill of rights would be a wonderful aspect to make sure that we are getting the care that we need and deserve. So, like, I love your analogy of, going through the drive-through and they're looking at you and be like, you're too fat, go. Or that they give you, you order a Big Mac and fries and a large Coke, and they give you a small Coke, an apple, and and a McChicken.
So you weren't a fan of the trans fat ban up in New York City, like?
In terms of the fat trans fats stuff, like as a country or as people, I think we need to switch away from vegetable oils and go which are oh my gosh, it's not coming to me. Which are more unsaturated fats and more easily oxidized, and to more saturated fats like butter and coconut oil and things like that.
Interesting.
Or animal fats. But anyway, let's go back to patients' bill of rights.
Agricultural policy is very important, and it's actually being abandoned in Kentucky, and I'm not going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, we can get. We should definitely talk about agriculture here in a little bit because we have so many farmers here, and it's absolutely essential that we help them out. But back to patients' bill of rights. I think it is essential because I know so many people have talked to so many people where they go to the doctor, try to get some diagnosis or get checked out, and the doctor's like, nah, this seems fine or whatever, or they try to run some asinine test that doesn't help them, that is really just meant for them to get more money from running that test. And so if we have a patient's bill of rights and they're on the hook for negative outcomes because they're not doing their due diligence to go through and try to help whatever's ailing us, then they're going to be much more diligent in trying to solve whatever health problem that we have. Now, that being said, I do also want to say that it is imperative that we, at least as a country, as our government, to be able to negotiate drug prices to lower them. We should be able to get purchase bulk pricing from pharmaceutical companies to lower the costs on regular Americans.
I agree.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's 2.
You really thought they were going to fight?
I almost thought they would a little bit. Okay.
Come on.
And the
Yeah,
third
we
and
get
final.
along with Republicans. It's crazy.
Okay, and my last question for the session, guys, and I appreciate both of your honest answers. And I'm going to pitch this to all three of you. Okay.
Yeah.
As a Democrat, as a proud Democrat, I think that we have kind of forgotten our roots. Okay. A lot of Democrats were blue-collared people, hard-working Americans.
Yeah.
Still are.
Yeah.
And we let them go across the party lines because we didn't take care of them.
Right.
Okay? I think we have an opportunity to go back to our roots, which was taking care of the middle class, protecting the hard-working Americans. And how we do that is we need to rebuild our unions. And not only that, have these people that are not really JUCO or university-centered people in trade schools.
Yeah.
And I think that I mean, I hate to say this, not everybody needs a PhD. I don't have one.
No, of course not. My brother's got a PhD. To hell with that.
But I guess
I'm happier with that one. Yeah,
but I guess
can
what I'm
borrow
saying
his.
is, you
Yeah,
know,
no, I know what
we
you mean.
need
Like,
to we
the
need
thing
to
where we tricked everybody into thinking that they had to put up $100,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, we really messed up.
You know, and I think that, you know, as Democrats, I think these two, regardless of which one of you win, need to publicly state tonight that you're going to work on, you know, finding a place for these kids that are getting out of school, get out of high school. And we're not talking about college here. We're talking about high school. Make sure that they have the opportunity to seek military service. Or they need to be able to go to the union hall and apply to become a apprentice. Or get some kind of certificate.
Well,
And then
yeah,
the
as you
JUCO,
said,
and then the
trade,
college level.
trade schools.
And we're not doing that, guys.
Right. I
And,
agree.
and to me, that's part of education. You know, it's basically, here's your high school diploma. It's worth about 18 cents. Go stick that on the wall. And then when you go to...
Actually, but no, the thing about a high school diploma is if you're smart and you stay pat, at least it's not worth the extra, like, minus 100,000. Like, people got really upside down on their student loans.
Well,
you know?
and then that's the problem. You know, if there's more competition for those same students to go to trade school and JUCO
Yeah.
and things like that, I think you could reel in places like U of L, Harvard, UK, all these universities, because the rate of which their tuition is going up
Yeah.
is far exceeding the student's ability to pay.
That's right.
Yeah.
I would like to mention that EKU's faculty and staff unionized this past week, I think.
All right,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's
So
a good deal.
congratulations to them.
Yep.
You know, that reminds me of
Kudos,
a couple things I
EKU.
wanted to say, but like, you're a 9th grade teacher. Thank you for your service.
You're
And
welcome.
I am profoundly grateful to you all for showing up. Like, this is what I've always wanted. Like, seriously, this is what I've always wanted in a debate. Like, just enough time to talk.
Right.
Nobody
Yeah.
waving a red folder at you.
Oh, come on, where's the red folder at?
Yeah, we've got Starbucks.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. Really, like, you know, debates and speeches used to take all day, and I miss that. Anyway, so that's all I got on that one. But did you have another question, or?
I'm pretty much done for the day. Thank you, Jeff, for
Oh,
answering.
well,
Chris, thank you
Well,
for
no,
answering.
I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
thought you were-
Well, I'm out of questions.
Yeah, I was writing
I was
on-
thinking.
No, I've been
And
writing
thank
stuff
you for
down
giving me the
first
opportunity.
You're a part of this thing, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, people do not realize how much campaign managers do. Like, and I'm sort of like, you know, okay, yes, I am sort of like bragging on that one a little bit, but also, it's a lot, right?
It is.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's like being a comic book writer without an artist. You've got a really nice script.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question from the audience that I got asked first. This is open to everybody, you included, Mike.
Sure.
What is 300 meters converted into kilohertz?
Lord.
I'm going to turn on the lights. What do you think?
Sorry.
If anybody wondered where the smoke's
Not-
coming from, that's my ears.
What
You're
do
allowed
they
to
call
Google
that?
stuff. It's not like
The,
you're-
No, I'm
the
good.
units have to agree. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Tim. You're going to have to Google that yourself. I
a
promised
length
to
and
take
a power
pictures.
measurement.
I did not take pictures. You want to take a couple of pictures?
Sure.
Okay, we'll go around and take pictures because I'm always real bad about that.
How about I take pictures of my phone? I'll just send them to your phone.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so first off, we're all perfectly well aware that the DoorDash and Uber drivers of Lexington are our major audience right now. What are you, when elected to Congress, going to do for DoorDash and Uber drivers, Lyft, and various rideshare type people?
Yeah.
delivery.
I think it should be easier for them to unionize and to get the protections that they need. It is, and not just DoorDash and Uber drivers. Everybody should the conditions should be a lot easier for people to unionize and be able to bargain collectively.
How are you going to do that? Like, what does the government do to make it easier to unionize? What would you do?
Well, I mean, they set the rules of how that's allowed to happen, and something that happened. I'm trying to remember how many years ago, 3-4 years ago, that like farm workers were not. And I don't think it was just farm workers, but workers were not allowed to organize or hold union meetings like on the property in which they were working, and so that really hurt the ability for the unions to try to like spread the word, like, hey, here's the meeting, come over, and even try to find a space to have a meeting to unionize or to talk about union issues, and so there's all sorts of asinine rules like that try to discourage or make it harder for unions to form, and we've got to try to dismantle those and make it easier for people to.
Getting rid of laws appeals to my inner libertarian. And by the way, I forgot to mention, thank you to the Libertarian Party of Kentucky for buying us coffee.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
thanks.
very much appreciated. So yes. I have a
I'll-
libertarian question for you in a minute, but your answer to that first.
All right, Uber and Lyft drivers.
Yeah, how are you going to make their lives better?
I will ask my friend Frank Harris, who is an Uber driver every day, and a libertarian, and I'll ask him.
Honestly, you do this a lot, and I always have to say that's actually honestly one of the things I most admire about you, is that when you've got a question that you don't have an answer to, you're just like, I'm just going to ask somebody who knows.
Right.
Like, I've been to a lot of political speeches. You don't see that often, right? You've got people like just fishing for answers, just like, well, I've never heard of FERC, but it sounds like a Muppet. So
Yeah.
I would fund PBS.
I see that even happening on news stations, which drives me nuts. It's like stick to facts. Don't try to just fill airtime.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And guys, I mean, kind of jumping on the same line here. Corporate America is making it extremely difficult for people to unionize.
Yes.
They are doing what I call the
100 years.
They call it unionized light, where they've got their own personal gripe chain of command. You go to arbitration for this, or you do that, or what they're trying to stop. Let's just get right out of brass tacks is collective bargaining.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there are power in numbers,
Power to the people, baby.
and that's it.
They're powering
And
workers.
sooner the American people wake up and realize that you don't have to be stuck at a $10 an hour job just because Mr. Joe, Target says that's what you're going to make.
A lot of the luxuries we have right now, weekends, 40-hour work week,
Child labor laws.
child labor laws, those are because of unions.
Right.
Well, going back to what Reagan did, Reagan was trying to make airplane travel less safe. He didn't realize it, but what he was doing was incredibly bad for American air traffic.
Oh, he knew exactly what he was doing.
No, he didn't. Reagan was brain dead from the moment John Hinckley shot him. I don't like Reagan. I'm sorry. I do. Ooh. There's very few. My daughter was like talking about. Well, my daughter was like, I invited her to the thing last night, and she's like, no, I don't care about that. The only thing I know is I hate Donald Trump. And I was like, okay, well, you shouldn't hate anybody. She's like, and I also hate that old guy that you talk about, Ronald Reagan. And I was like,
I don't hate Ronald Reagan. I just don't agree with a lot of his policy. And I mean, I was early teens when this went down, and I came from a very union family. When I mean union, there was either IBEW, plumbers union, pipe fitters, teachers union. We were all union, okay?
Yeah.
And we all were paying close attention to the air traffic controllers, and we were standing in solidarity with them.
Right.
Reagan drew the line in the sand.
Yeah.
That's before your time. But you remember, same as I do. He put
you would
it all.
actually be shocked how much I knew about Reagan at the time.
And I remember.
I was an 8-year-old.
I remember like it was yesterday, and I'm sure Jeff does too. Yeah. He was at 72 hours he gave him. He said, you have to be back on the job in 72 hours or you don't have a job. Yeah. I'll fill it with military personnel.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did.
In the crimes of Reagan, that's somewhere in the middle. No, I'm not going to...
Iran-Contra, yeah, you take...
Oh, yeah. No, we already did a show about how much we don't like Reagan. We listen to that. So DoorDash and Uber, we handled that. We took pictures. Okay, question for our libertarian friends. How do you feel about the certificate of need policy? Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
That's a big deal to libertarians. I guess I should not do this as a proxy and let you look it up. But if you want to appeal to libertarians, there's a thing called a certificate of need, which is, now I'm talking, which was not the purpose of this question, but apparently it's a system by which a hospital has to have a certificate ascertaining that there is sufficient need for its services to set up in a particular place. And the system was created to stop hospitals from all concentrating in Lexington, so that there would have to be hospitals in Harlan County. You don't like
it would never work.
Oh, it's been going on for years.
What I'm saying is, I mean,
but it already isn't working. Fair, yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is, I ran in a district in Jackson County that don't even have a hospital.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get Humana up there. You're not going to get Central Baptist up there, St. Joe, Good Sam, or anybody else.
No, but you will get them to London.
But
which is a lot closer.
It's 45 minutes away.
How far is Lexington?
An hour.
I mean, you see what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is, the problem with rural Kentucky is there's no federal funding or any advantageous ability to lure doctors and nurses to operate in those areas. Now, back in the 70s, there was a teacher shortage, I do remember, and my Aunt Dawn actually went to teach in Jackson County because she got student loan forgiveness to offset the amount of money she was losing by not teaching in Fayette or Madison County.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's the AmeriCorps. Didn't AmeriCorps do something like that?
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic program.
But, and like I said, but you got a doctor when he walks out with his degree from UK or U of L, I mean, what probably $1 million at least?
Is that how much?
Yeah. By the time you get through med school? Oh, yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend that was a dentist. He said it was over $1 million.
Wow.
My cousin's an obstetrician, and she paid hers off a while ago. But she says that her practice, double check me on this, but she says that her practice is open 5 days a week, and 3 of them she's working to pay the insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like the whole thing's coming.
So I mean, if we can
Bad
get some
problem.
Okay, but this was not a good question because Ken Molman, sorry dude, just call us and explain what a certificate of need is because we don't really
There
know.
you go.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. In your opinion, in this room, who does the Kentucky Democratic Party like the least? See, he thinks it's him. Right?
Wait, in this room?
Yeah, of us 4.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you're obviously the one they like the best.
I don't know.
No, I know some people who are very fond of you. I really do. You're running a good campaign, by the way. But
So when you say Kentucky Democratic Party, you're not talking about Kentucky voters. You're talking about the party structure, the the secretary, the chair of the party, the members of the executive, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Hang on a minute. Jeff, you want to flip forward? I mean,
Yeah. All right. So I mean, it's just exciting.
You're not running for anything today.
Yeah, but I did all my damage years ago.
All right.
But we're a clear and present threat today. I'm happy to be third place. Okay, so that was another one of my questions, and
I'd like to just interject before we go to the next question.
Yeah.
I want to interject my motto. If I win the primary on May 17th, is what I will be saying from now until November. And that is, unlike Andy Barr, I will never vote to send weapons to Nazis. That's my slogan. That's how I'm going to beat them.
Yeah, I will point out that while working on a assignment, Geoff actually made me fact check this, and it's true. It's quite true. We were very aware. Not only were we aware that we were shipping weapons to Nazis, you can blame Trump if you want to. This is a good time to blame Trump. But under the Trump regime, not only were we shipping weapons to people that we knew and was excruciatingly well reported were Nazis, but there was actually a debate on the floor of Congress, and they passed a resolution saying that they could no longer send the weapons to the people that they knew were Nazis.
Yeah.
Well, that was 2015.
Azov
Azov Battalion.
Battalion.
That was John Conyers again from Michigan. 2015. He came along at just as the 2016 appropriations bill was being passed, and at the last minute he got a little amendment there stuck in at the end. No funds appropriated by the U.S. government shall be used to fund the Azov Battalion, which was in Ukraine, 2015, and it passed. Nobody objected. It was unanimous voice vote. He got that in there, and Congress ignored it from forever after.
Well, Trump. I mean, if you want to blame Trump, this is a good time to blame Trump. Trump absolutely was the one who wanted to seem tough on Russia and started the weapons shipments again.
Okay, all right.
That's well reported.
So
I'm sorry, Chris.
I'm going to prove to
but we can't be
every
rude, we can't be rude.
voter
I know
in the
you are.
6th district.
Yeah.
So something I would say if I'm the person elected on May 17th is that I will do more for Kentucky given the same amount of time, and in fact in 2 years I can't promise that it will be in 2 years, but give me the same amount of time as Barr has had, and I will pass more bills into law that will actually help people, because he's been in there, or will have been in there, 10 years, and currently has only written into law 3 bills, and those 3 bills have not helped anyone here. One was to rename the VA hospital in Lexington.
The sign company thanked him.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, that's 5 people.
Okay, yeah, that helped them. The second was to have a commemorative coin. Okay, that helps all those coin collectors out
Yeah,
there.
the mistologists are thrilled.
Yeah. I did collect coins with my grandpa a little bit when I was a kid.
Both of them. Yeah.
And then the third was to change some credit hours in a scholarship program, which I'm sure those students were very happy for that credit hour change. But we have got major problems here that need to be solved, and he is just not on it.
Yeah.
Now he'll talk about co-sponsoring all day long. Co-sponsoring I equate to basically a kid trying to turn in somebody else's homework. How much did you actually do of that yourself?
I'm actually going to disagree with you there, but I see what you're saying. I'm a big fan of this is where my inner libertarian comes out. What bills would you get? What laws would you get rid of? What laws would you repeal? That's what I want to know. I mean, granted, Andy Barr's got to go, and I'm thrilled that one of you two is going to do it. I actually have a good feeling about it right now.
Well,
sorry.
I'll throw one out there that I've talked to Chris about numerous times, and I talked to. I'm not going to mention what county. I actually went as a surrogate for Chris. Andy Barr voted against family farms, and he voted with the tax credit for corporate farms. Okay, it was the Farm Modernization Act. Okay, it was going to allow family farms up to $2 million, a 7-year interest-free loan to upgrade their implements, their computer system, GPS, improve their livestock quality, make their farm more modern. So my question is, there was no downside to this. It was just a part of the Build Back Better program. Okay.
Yeah.
Why would a representative for Kentucky's 6th district that knows we have as many family farms in it as we do vote against every one of those families and then walk around with this brand new Carhartt jacket and this, brand new pair of boots, Red Wings, and act like he's a farmer?
Well, I don't know how many.
And he
people
stabbed him in the back.
I don't know how many of the people audience know this, but the current agricultural policy from Republicans across the board, from the top to the bottom, is nothing. Literally
That's
nothing.
right.
Nothing.
Crickets.
There is no agricultural. Right? Am I missing anything?
No.
There's absolutely nothing. Right? Okay.
All
So,
right,
ag
so
policy,
in
what are
the
you gonna do?
absence of a coherent policy, what the Republicans end up doing is listening to lobbyists. And the lobbyists,
the tax break
And-
to
and
the
there's
the
corporate
lobbyists don't come from small farms. Small farmers cannot afford lobbyists. Even getting together, they can't afford them. And so the Republicans de facto do have a policy, and that is to favor corporate agribusiness over small farmers.
Yeah.
That is really bad.
And the research backs this up, folks. A bill has 30% chance to pass through Congress, regardless of the popularity by our population. So there could be 80% in favor of it, like U.S. term limits, or there could be 20% of us that are in favor of it. But the bill still has 30% chance of passing through Congress. Now, the one thing that really changes that percentage is the amount of lobbyist money money that is pumped in to get them to vote a certain way.
Yep.
And you're quoting meta studies here, right? Like this, I've seen that this is extremely well proven.
Yeah.
Like they've got the numbers on it. Yeah,
Yes,
there's no doubt about it.
this is proven that our current Congress is not representing the people. It is blatantly in the research that we are not being represented. That it is moneyed interests that are being represented,
And not Russian money.
And on top of that, you're talking about the metadata.
Yeah.
9 out of every $10 goes to an incumbent, regardless of party.
Right.
9 out of $10.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we've noticed that.
So I mean, all joking aside,
Yeah.
they have unevenly laid the playing field for us
Yeah. Oh,
as
this is tough.
as both grassroots candidates,
Yeah.
and it's amazing to watch the votes that your future opponent, whichever one of you win, watch his
both
votes
so
and
good.
watch his campaign accounts very
That's
closely.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It don't take long to figure it out. Okay, that vote was bought and it was paid for,
That's right.
and it wasn't from Kentucky. It was from another state, another country, and you know what? Mr. Barr sleeps just fine at night, knowing
Somehow
that he
he-
sold us out.
Somehow he does.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm like Chris. I would love to talk about Andy Barr's record if he had one.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, all right, fair. I see what you're saying, but you do have to understand that there's a big chunk of Kentucky, and Kentucky's one of the most libertarian states, by the way, that when they hear a politician hasn't passed any laws, they're like, oh. So you need to. I mean, I'm not saying you need to pitch things libertarian. I'm definitely in solidarity with them on that one.
Well, I'm not saying there's not. But what I'm saying to you is,
Yeah. Yeah, he has.
do something.
Well, in your opinion,
anything.
Well, hold up. In your opinion, what has Barr done?
He's voted for bills that appeal to his base, which is fundamentalist Christian, big business, horse industry, Saudi Arabian money, Israeli lobby, Kufi and AIPAC. Kufi is Christians United for Israel. Barr does nothing but pander to his base and vote the way his funders want him to vote, and Mitch McConnell want him to vote, and AIPAC want him to vote.
Do you agree with that?
That sounds like a pretty fair assessment.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
well,
he's
All four of us,
sorry,
absolute
Andy.
agreement.
he doesn't need any ideas of his own because
Yeah,
they're
and
all
he's a
provided
soldier.
by
Sorry.
his funders.
Yeah, when someone will not will vote against giving more money to children in poverty to try to raise them out of poverty, it just turns my stomach.
Yeah.
As a teacher, there is one factor that I have no control over in the classroom that has a huge effect on a student's ability to function in a classroom and learn, and that is their level of poverty.
Yes.
If a student is impoverished, they are much more likely to do worse in school. And so, as a teacher, I have no control over that. I can beg and plead and make awesome, lessons to try to engage the students, but that is, the poverty level is number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look, so we'll just do one more. We have to talk about abortion a lot, okay? Because that's what people really want to hear about, right? That's
I've got
fair.
like 10 more minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So before we do that, then, the show's over at 8. You're free no matter what. Although we've got a few minutes after that. That's when I'm going to play your all's music, and I'm really looking forward to that. But before we move to abortion, or as I'm going to call it, a woman's right to choose and reproductive freedom, because we're all on the same page on that one, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of a
very much
moot
so.
point.
Okay, so all three of you, because this counts for you too, because you'll be in D.C. working behind the scenes with one of these two guys. What allies are you going to seek? Who do you want to work with?
I will work with. Kentucky has a lot of issues that need to be addressed. Poverty, farming, agriculture, small farmers, trying to work with small businesses. You've got to find allies wherever they could be, Democrat, Republican, Independent, although there aren't very many independents in there. I'm willing to work with anybody that is that is common-minded and actually reasonably trying to solve these problems.
I agree with you completely, and I'm actually happy to hear you say that, but I'm asking, like, who do you think is good? Like, who would you want to meet? Like, who are you gonna seek out?
Individuals?
Yeah, or individuals or groups, yeah.
Well,
whatever.
that's really hard. I mean,
You think so?
well,
I mean, Katie
you-
Porter, there you go. I'm not.
Well, I mean, I get it, but what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
you have to understand something, Jeff.
Yeah.
These two guys are running for a seat, which basically was this time about what 40% of the House is going to be up again, about 40% of it on this.
No,
midterm.
50%.
Is it 50?
Yeah, it's half, yeah.
I'm
right,
sorry,
and
50%.
33% of the Senate.
Right. So
Yeah.
basically, what I'm saying is, you don't know who's going to be there. I mean, there's a good, strong likelihood, but
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't hang my hat right now on anybody until
Yeah.
the next Congress is seated.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
I'll answer it.
certainly
Okay, go ahead.
Certainly the other Congress people from Kentucky,
Right.
you know, they're already dealing with a lot of the same issues.
Yeah.
West Virginia, Tennessee deal with a lot of the same issues. I mean, like Appalachia, the whole Appalachian region deals with a lot of these issues. And certainly we should definitely be able to find common ground with the people representing those areas.
I will work with the House Progressive Caucus. I think there's a House Anti-War Caucus. If it has 2 members now, it'll have 3 when I get there.
It's lonely being
I will
anti-war.
work with Republicans who are called deficit hawks, who want to cut spending and cut the deficit because I want to cut the military budget by 70%. And so I'll work with all those Republican deficit hawks who want to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse from government. And I'm going to make sure that they include the military in that. But my basic answer is anybody who's against war.
Fair enough.
That's my bottom line.
And I do have to point out, and this actually is something I wanted to mention to you too, but as a long-term pacifist, I have noted that there are 3 consistently anti-war senators, and the left hates 2 of them on any given day.
Okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
And that just annoys me because I really feel like the priorities are wrong. But okay, and this going back a little bit, Chris, this is something like I guess this is a little personal, but I'd be one of your constituents, obviously, and hopefully a fairly enthusiastic one. And I'm sorry that I reacted so strongly to this online a few days ago, but as someone who has been paying attention to this for a long time and has really been digesting information about Ukraine. I don't claim to be an expert on Ukraine, but I have been aware of this for a long time. And so things like them voting again, them calling Azov Nazis on the floor of Congress and voting to not send them weapons anymore because they were literally Nazis and still are literally Nazis is not a thing that I can put aside as propaganda or as like, you know, like I just imagine it. It's just a fever dream. Like I remember this quite well. I used to have a dear friend from Ukraine. We parted ways over politics, but not over this, over something else. But he made me interested in Ukraine, and I've been paying attention since 2000. I've been paying attention since the Orange Revolution. I used to really like, what was his name, Yushchenko? I honestly admired Yushchenko. I've always been fascinated by Eastern Europe. So when people tell me that things that are in no way controversial, I mean, are just like statements of fact as clear as Japan exists. And when people tell me, and not just you, but like this happens a lot right now. When people tell me that that's propaganda, that honestly makes me feel profoundly alienated. I don't know how to continue the conversation when people are saying that things that happen and that I well remembered happened and that they were not paying attention to, and I remember them not paying attention to, they've suddenly turned around and decided that this is not valid. And that puts me in a heck of a spot. And that's where, you know, like all my ranting at you about Captain America came from, you know. I do sort of apologize for that. Like I thought deeply about what I did there, and I'm not sure Mark Grunwald would have been proud of me either.
I'm very happy that we agree that Mark Grunwald is the best Captain America.
The greatest political writer of the 1980s.
I would agree with that, at least to the extent of what I have read. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't read everything. But anyway, so I guess like I'm not really phrasing this in a form of a question. It's like, are you sorry you called me a Russian? You didn't call me a Russian. But Do you understand what I'm saying? Like how that's like a need. I feel that needs to be recognized. That there needs to be more respect for disparity of opinion on this, especially when so often it's informed.
Yeah. So from my understanding from the and recollection of this back and forth exchange that we had, I thought you were trying to call all Ukrainians Nazis.
No, because then who would they oppress?
So
Everybody can't be a Nazi. You've got to have somebody to oppress.
Yeah. So certainly we know with the Azov group that there are Nazi groups in there, and yes, we had previously sent weapons to them, which is ridiculous. We should not be sending weapons to Nazis.
I agree with that. Jeff, do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah,
But
right.
but we do need to be sending weapons to Ukraine so they can help defend themselves.
Yeah, I
from
don't agree with
Russia.
that one.
That I can't agree with. But
I'll agree with Chris on that one. You know,
Fine.
yeah.
I mean,
Abortion.
Yes.
Next
let's-
issue.
ding, ding, ding. Let's finish on a positive note with everybody's going kumbaya.
All right. So, what are you gonna do to get Roe v. Wade codified into law and be as specific as you possibly can? Because this is really
It
important.
already is.
All right. Please continue.
Roe v. Wade is the law of the land.
Yeah, but it's not a statute. It's a Supreme Court decision.
Well, I understand that, Jeff, but I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, if you go back and look at the legal statute on it itself, how many decisions have been based on Roe v. Wade?
A lot.
Hundreds, maybe even
look,
thousands.
Okay,
didn't know
you're right.
Yeah.
But if Roe v. Wade is overturned according to the draft that I saw,
Yeah.
or something like it, all of those supporting decisions vanish. They're all gone, wiped out.
Right, and I guess the argument for me really comes back to the 13th and the 14th Amendments, respectively. You know, you cannot impose a sentence in prison or enslave somebody without a due process and a trial.
Yeah.
And you can't say that a woman that decides to have an abortion is a criminal
Yeah.
because she has committed no crime.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. And then you go to the 14th Amendment, and it very clearly states the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. If you take a rape, incest victim, or a victim of violent crime, and you further victimize them,
Yeah.
how is that making this person happy?
Yeah.
All right, but
Yeah.
Jeff's question was, what will we do as a congressperson?
Tactics, not strategy. Like, what do you-
And not these underlying arguments, which you just stated some very strong arguments, but the question is, what if it happens? What if the Supreme Court rules the way it's threatening to do? What do we do as members of the legislative branch?
Yeah. So we have to put those protections legally, stated into law, and in terms of wrapping my mind around all this and looking at Roe v. Wade and all these other statements, without allowing for abortions, especially at the bare minimum for rape, incest, and life of the mother, like thinking about those of you listening, ladies listening, I'm a male, and I'm thinking about it from a male perspective, and just thinking, my wife and I just had our first kid. He's 6 months old. Adorable as all get out. So check him out online.
His name's Orion.
I take him with me almost everywhere I go.
Hey, he's not here. What?
Yeah, but you saw him on Friday. He's a cute
Yeah.
kid. Yeah. Big
but-
hit with the sorority girls.
If my wife and I decided to have another kid,
Yeah.
and God forbid she had a miscarriage,
Yeah.
and Roe v. Wade were not in place, then my wife could be possibly put on trial for murder.
I mean, she would be subject to, if the draft opinion that I read is right, she would be subject to Kentucky law, and I honestly don't know what Kentucky law is on
Well, they've
that.
got
It's really bad.
I'm not surprised.
they're a trigger law now. I think
Right.
It's so bad that it's a trigger. It's considered trigger law, I think, which is the most restrictive.
Yeah.
I never heard that. I don't know what a trigger law is.
Well, okay, it's a law that the General Assembly of Kentucky passed and overrode the governor's veto, and it says that if Roe versus Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court, then all abortions in Kentucky are illegal.
With no exceptions.
With no exceptions for anything.
Except for
Am
life
I
of the
right?
mother, I think.
I'm not sure. But
I think the life of the mother has to be at risk.
One or
If
zero
any kind
exceptions.
listeners know, please let us know, because that's important. Because, I mean, like, ectopic pregnancies are, I mean, like, that's not a joke. Like, that's a death sentence.
Right.
For both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so
Oh,
there may be
God.
one exception, and all the others would disappear.
Yeah, yeah. So that you know, in terms of my male perspective, like that kind of thing just kind of sinks in that could happen to my wife.
Right.
Yeah.
If this is, you know, yeah.
No, I mean, the way I see it is I'm protecting my children's reproductive freedoms.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and, sorry?
I guess the bigger question that I have, and I mean, you know, these two guys are obviously running for Congress, but as one of your constituents, I want you both to understand something. The word fetus does not appear in the United States Constitution anywhere.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be a live, breathing human being
That has been birthed.
that has been birthed. So I don't.
You're right. It says natural born. You're right. That's right in there.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
that's absolutely true. You're right. I'd never thought about that. But yeah.
So I guess the question that I have for both of you, or I want you both to understand, okay? My wife means the world to me, and just like I'm sure Chris's wife means the world to him.
all our wives mean all the world to all of us.
Absolutely, or
Four different worlds,
girlfriends
four
or
different
whatever.
wives, but
And
yes.
happy early Mother's Day to all of you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually.
But here's the deal, okay? I think that our opponent, the GOP, the far right, the alt-right, is affording rights that are not there to unborn, okay?
Yeah.
They are stripping rights away from living women, putting their lives at extreme risk.
Yeah.
And they're taking away, possibly taking away a mother from two other kids that are already born.
Right. I agree 100%, Mike.
And it's scary.
1,000%. But what are you all going to do
I'll
about
see your 1,000.
Thanks,
What are you
Jeff.
going to
All right,
do?
all right.
Tactics.
So I am going to try to get support first on the House Judiciary Committee and second through the entire House, both parties, for the impeachment of any judge that any justice, Supreme Court justice that signs a decision that makes all abortions illegal throughout the United States. They need to be impeached and convicted and removed from their powerful positions. And you can impeach Supreme Court
Yes, you can.
justices, and they need to go.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if this happens, we could have a second civil war in this country.
Yeah.
We could see men whose wives or girlfriends die in a back alley abortion or die because the exceptions have been removed, the health of the mother, or whatever. And those men could get a gun, because I also support the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I have that problem myself.
I do support that.
We're all. I
And-
mean, actually, wait just a
and
minute. Are
we could see
Okay, anyway.
Well, my idea
we
of gun
could
control is
see
use two hands.
Republican politicians and right-to-life judges getting assassinated.
Yeah.
We could see it.
Well, I mean, I see what you're saying, because when you come right down to it, the government cannot be a suicide pact. The social compact cannot be a suicide pact. And if you are creating a law that forces women to die, you can't expect buy-in from their loved ones.
Yeah, and I know at least several of the judges, and it could be all, but I know several of them because I've watched the confirmation hearings through my life, that they said under oath that they would not overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
that's-
I thought of that when he mentioned that.
Yeah,
But
that's
okay,
perjury.
it is, but you know what? This came up a lot with Trump. Impeachment is a political decision. You can do it for anything. You don't need a cause. Like it says right there, impeachment is for high crimes and misdemeanors. That's misdemeanor in the ancient sense, which means a bad demeanor. Just means they're in a bad mood. Okay, you can impeach somebody for being in a bad mood. Impeachment is a purely political decision. It is a pure power move. Perjury technically it is perjury, but when you come right down
Well,
to
it's
it,
not. It is perjury.
okay, but when you come right down to it, they would not be impeached for perjury. They would be impeached because a majority of representatives to impeach them, and no other reasons.
Well,
That's true.
Or ask Bill Clinton. He knows all about perjury.
Yeah.
He got impeached for perjury.
I was interested a minute ago when you said you were a proud Democrat, but I feel like I'm interrupting again.
Yeah, I think it would probably be easier to get a law passed through Congress than trying to impeach all these
Supreme Court
justices.
justice.
Yeah.
Do both. Impeach 5 of them.
Have you ever written a law, Chris?
I write assessments all the time for my students.
No, I mean, Jeff, have you
And
ever
his
written a law?
word is the law. Yeah, I've drafted some, but you know, whether they went anywhere or not, I don't know.
Yeah. I tried once and I was not good at it. Have you?
I tried. I've helped.
Yeah, I was not good at that. That was a very specialized skill.
Well, it's not just
Yeah,
that.
I
Is by the
think I
time
think
but
I
what
did
you write, by the
work
time
on
it
one.
gets to the floor, is two different things.
Oh, we never got that far.
I helped write one on net metering for electric utilities in Kentucky. So, you know, if you have a solar electric panel on your house, I helped work on the statute that required the utility company to
Yeah. That's cool.
to pay you a fair price for the electricity you produce and send back into the grid.
Well, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good job. I appreciate that. We might have solar panels soon at my house.
I had a lot of help from a lot of people.
That's the whole point of this stuff. You're not supposed to be able to do it alone. That's why everything in politics is expensive, because you're not supposed to be able to do it alone. We're supposed to be working together,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Right, and forming alliances and party.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think one of the most anti-war representatives in the U.S. House today is Thomas Massey of Northern Kentucky. And I'm looking forward to working with him on
No, he's right. I agree with him. I can see the face you're making, but
anti-war
it's true.
legislation, cutting the defense budget, and all kinds of things. He and I see eye to eye on
Have you
foreign
met him?
policy. Yeah, several times.
Okay. Make sure we're talking about the same
We're
guy.
down with the libertarians than the Tea Party. I keep
He's a
telling you.
nice guy.
Like-
Yeah, I get along much better with Tea Party Republicans than Mitch McConnell Republicans.
Did you have the same Christmas card
What?
as Massey?
No. I didn't get one from him either.
Yeah, we're not that tight.
So you're not on the mailing list?
No, actually, Jeff said something very interesting to me, and it actually goes back to Roe v. Wade for any Republicans who are listening. But you told me a while ago that the Tea Party are completely obsessed with fighting vaccine mandates to the point where they haven't talked about anything else for months. Is that true? Or
Couple years.
yeah. So I mean, how do you feel about vaccine mandates?
I mean, in terms of everybody in the entire nation being forced to take a vaccine, I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, if there are certain areas, high risk areas or jobs or whatever, that then requiring a vaccine within the scope of that job, yeah, I could see that to try to reduce the spread and whatnot. But not in terms of like the entire nation, unless it, yeah.
Mike clearly wants to go before Jeff, so.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, besides myself, anybody else in the room had COVID?
I think so. Yeah, like last week.
To my knowledge, I have.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a while.
2 weeks
Don't
ago.
scare people.
I mean, I had the original COVID.
Yeah.
13 days on my back at 102 to 103 temperature.
Yeah, you had something.
Yeah. geez,
Okay.
Yeah. No, I didn't have that.
Okay. What I'm saying is I've got a first cousin right now that has been crippled with a stroke from COVID for the first original variant. Okay. Mandate, I'd say probably no. Smart business sense or smart health sense, if you're listening to my voice, COVID's no joke. If it's
Okay.
free, if it's available, you better get it, because you
Well.
don't want to end up like my cousin. And, I'm what they call a long-termer. I still have trouble with my taste and my smell. So, guys, it is real.
Oh, it's real.
Legit as it gets.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, I've never claimed that it's not real. I'm opposed to all vaccine mandates because it's a violation of our human rights, not just our civil rights, but our human rights.
Well, that's right on the international level, right?
Any vaccine or medical treatment has to be with the patient's informed consent. And I'm opposed to laws, for example, federal employees that are threatened with the loss of their job if they don't get vaccinated. I'm opposed to all of that.
I gotta say, I'm a bodily autonomy absolutist, and I'm really surprised the Republicans are. The Republicans have recently discovered, oh hey, bodily autonomy might be nice after all, and now they're leaping.
Except for abortion.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
You're
actually-
not going to get
well,
consistency.
Oh, sorry.
Let's but actually let's get down to the brass tacks of this. They really don't want abortion, because when that leaked document came out, the only thing that they really talked about was that, oh my God, there was a leaked document
Yeah.
from SCOTUS, and they did not dance in the streets celebrating and champagne.
No, they acted like the dog
raised.
that caught the car.
Yeah.
They know they're in trouble. They know they messed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're more worried about the leak than they were the content.
Yeah, well, the Republican, okay, I maintain a lot of Republican friends. I know not a lot of people do. And they are completely over the Republican leadership using abortion as a carrot to beat them. Like
Interesting.
They've pretty much seen through it. And I mean, I'm painting a broad brush here, but I can support it. Like you see my Facebook page. A lot of those people that comment on the abortion page threads are Republicans. I mean,
Interesting.
including like Southern Baptist ministers, and like,
Really?
yeah, oh yeah. I'm not kidding. I'm not.
And I've had
putting words in people's
conversations
mouth.
with current state reps
I
about
mean,
it.
when Roe v.
Okay.
Wade was initially put out, there were several large Christian groups that were in favor of Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People forget that. The
Yeah.
mainline Christian churches, a lot of them support Roe versus Wade decision.
I mean, we're Quakers, and I would have a hard time going into. I mean, Quakers don't talk about things. That's part of the charm. But I would have a hard time going in there and finding somebody who was anti-choice. I'm going to start calling it anti-choice. It seems
Then
unfair, but I'm
what are
going
you
to.
doing, having a radio show if you don't talk about things?
That is why. Well, I'll
He's
ask
a bad Quaker.
Yeah, terrible Quaker. No votes for me.
So much.
Okay, we're out of time, guys. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. This
So
was
you
great.
have closing statements? Anybody?
Sure. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, Independent, Libertarian, or whatever else you identify as. Your vote is your power. Exercise it. Make sure the people's voice is heard.
Absolutely. May 17th is the primary. There's also early voting. Check out, how you can vote. Go do that. And 42% of registered voters in the last presidential election did not vote. That is a sign of a democracy that is in need of healing. And, I think all of us agree that we are here and doing this, and doing our best, our level best, to try to heal it as much as possible, reach out to everyone so you can have your voice heard, and also so we could be an advocate for you within our government.
Unlike Andy Barr, I will never vote to send weapons to Nazis. That's Geoff Young.
I was like, how are you going to get your closing statement in the last 30 seconds? But then you did it. That was delightful. Now the next DJ is late, so it's actually just going to be me again. But I'm going to play the songs that these gentlemen selected.
You did get mine. I couldn't find anything. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, you've still got another 15 minutes if you want to go look. Or
I'm riding with him. So.
someone up on YouTube. But thanks, y'all. That was.
Oh, by the way, if you could find Traveling Wilburys into the line, that would be great.
It has not been popular within the last 20 years, so I'm allowed to play it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to play Geoff's songs first. Well, actually, I'm going to play the cart, and then I'm going to play Geoff's songs first, and then I'm going to play Chris's song, and then I will find you your Traveling Wilburys. Okay, here we go. 88.1 WRFL. Thank you so much for